Explainer. Today, we are tackling a really fascinating challenge in the tech world. How do you manage something that you can't even see? We're going to dive deep into the world of software metrics to figure out how the best teams out there make all that invisible work, well, visible, and turn lines of code into predictable, repeatable success. So this question right here, this is the absolute heart of the problem in software development. It's not like building a car or a house where you can literally walk around and see the progress. Software is totally abstract. It's invisible. So how on earth do you track progress? How do you know if you're even building the right thing?
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with that core problem of managing invisible work. Then we'll get into the power of measurement. After that, we'll peek inside the metrics toolkit itself, talk about the crucial human factor, and wrap things up by looking at how to use all these tools wisely.
Right, so let's get into it. Because software is so abstract, there aren't any physical parts you can count or check, like on an assembly line. And that makes objectively measuring your progress unbelievably difficult for everyone, from the developers writing the code to the managers trying to steer the whole ship.
And this is really where the rubber meets the road. Without hard data, your teams are basically flying blind. Management is just guessing about progress, about productivity, about where the next big crisis is going to pop up. You absolutely have to have tools to make all that invisible work visible.
And that's where measurement comes into the picture. It's the solution. It's what provides the visibility and the data you need to actually manage a software project effectively. It turns all those fuzzy, abstract concepts into something you can actually count. So what even is software measurement? Well, to put it simply, it's just the process of assigning a number to some characteristic of your software, or maybe the process you use to build it. It's that very first step, just figuring out how you can make something countable. And that brings us to the next logical step, metrics. See, if measurement is the act of figuring out how to quantify something, then a metric is the actual number you get. It's that data point you can then use to plan, to control, and hopefully to improve what you're doing. Now, this isn't just about grabbing a bunch of random numbers. No way. It's a structured 5-step loop. It all starts with formulation, where you decide what you're even going to measure. Then you move to collection to gather the data. From there, you analyze it and then interpret what those numbers are actually telling you. But the most crucial step is the last one, feedback. That's where you turn that insight into real action for your team.
And there are basically two ways you can take these measurements. You've got direct measurement, which is pretty straightforward. Think counting lines of code or how many hours were spent on a task. Then you have indirect measurement, which is a little different. Here, you're measuring something by looking at related factors. For instance, you might try to measure software quality by looking at its defect density.
All right, let's crack open the toolkit and see what we've got. We're going to look at the main categories of metrics that software teams use every day. You can think of these as the different dials and gauges on a project's dashboard. First up, we've got product metrics. These are focused 100% on the software itself, the actual thing being built. They help you gauge its quality, they help you identify potential risks, and they let you spot problem areas before they grow into huge headaches.
What's really interesting here is the range of these things. You've got simple counts like lines of code, sure, but then you have more sophisticated stuff like cyclomatic complexity, which is just a fancy way of measuring how tangled and complex your code's logic is, kind of like a roadmap with way too many intersections. And then there's defect density, which tells you how many bugs are lurking in a certain chunk of code.
Okay, so if product metrics are all about the what, then process metrics are all about the how. Here, the focus shifts away from the final code and onto the long-term health and efficiency of your team's development workflow. And you can really see that focus on workflow right here. Two of the big ones are lead time, that's the total time from when a feature is requested to when it's delivered, and cycle time, which is how long it takes to finish one specific task. I mean, these give you incredible insight into the efficiency of your entire development pipeline. So, our third category is project metrics. Now we're zooming out to the big picture. These numbers describe the performance of the overall project, especially stuff that project managers are really concerned about, like cost, schedule, and resources. Yeah, these are the metrics that answer those big, high-level questions. Are we on budget? Are we going to hit our deadline? How accurate were our original guesses? They're absolutely essential for keeping the whole project on the rails from a management perspective. But let's be real. Software isn't just about code and processes and projects. It's built by people. And that brings us to a super critical and honestly often overlooked category, people metrics. This quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? A successful project completely depends on a happy, motivated team that can work together well. Tracking these human-centric metrics helps you build an environment where people can actually do their best work. Let's look at a few examples. You've got things like attrition, which is the rate that employees leave, or the Employee Net Promoter Score, or ENPS, which measures how happy people are at work. Tracking these can give you an early warning about problems like burnout or low morale before they completely derail your project. It's all about understanding the health of your most important asset, your people. Okay, so we have all these powerful tools, but it is so important to remember that they have to be used thoughtfully. Metrics are a tool to help you understand things. They are not the goal itself. And this really gives you the balanced view. On the one hand, yeah, metrics can help you cut costs, improve quality, and manage workloads. But on the other hand, they can be expensive to set up. And if you measure the wrong thing or you misinterpret the data, you can make some really bad decisions. And it is so critical to remember. They don't determine an individual's performance, they measure the health of the system they're working in.
So here's the crucial point, the main takeaway. The goal is not to collect a bunch of numbers just for the sake of it. The goal is to gain real understanding. It's about using data to get a clear picture of your product, your process, and your people. So you